Alrighty guys, so this is the match directly after the last one. Luckily we are on Desal again, so that's good for testing medium against high object quality. And I've got it set on high from the very start of the match, so we can't like argue about changing settings mid-game affecting anything. And I am using SMAA T2X for the image stability so that we don't get all that aliasing and shimmering, which seems to be fine on my setup, but obviously if you want to maximize your FPS, go for SMAA or off. It'll sharpen the image in a good way. Like it kind of looks a bit more sharp, but you will get more shimmering on buildings and trees, which for me is very distracting when you're trying to spot enemies, especially at medium range. So it might just be a thing. Like I'm on a larger monitor, on a small monitor, it might not be as big a deal. I'm on 34 inches. So yeah, it's a preference rather than a competitive setting specifically, but it can be competitive to have a cleaner, more stable image. So it's just, you know, preference in that area, a competitive preference. And yeah, we're just going to be testing how much FPS drop we get when entering compounds and just seeing how much, how much the 1% tanks and the delta between the average and the 1%, because you do not want to have a large delta if you're trying to have consistent gameplay where you're aiming and input latency is consistent. And we'll also test it with an FPS cap, maybe halfway through the match, depending on how many compounds we pass through. So we spawn here. I'm trying to unlock the higher end shots, so I just use them all at start, in case I randomly die. So yeah, as you can see, we're already dropping 87 on the 1% lows, because we're entering in our radius, it's drawing in all the, rendering in all the objects in the compound. And that would have accounted for most of the drop. Okay. And around 117, it is definitely lower on average, and that is... Are we worried about enemy? Oh, I wanted that headshot. Yeah, as you can see, we do not want a large delta between the average, or the primary reading, I should say, and the 1%, because that will affect your muscle memory and your input latency consistency. So it doesn't matter how good an aimer you might get, you might be really good at getting headshots right, but if your input latency is not consistent, you will play worse with inconsistent 1% lows compared to your average and max. Compared to tapping the FPS and having your average and all your readings stabilized at 100 FPS, for example, compared to 140 and then 100, 140, 100. So you can see that FPS there. And it generally tends to be about the same, like, even though it seems to be good when I'm running in between compounds, a little bit more stable. Overall, it's much lower than medium object quality. And as we get to the compound, you see 107 FPS just said it did. Just when I ran here, even though nothing's around me, nothing like that I could visibly see should have tanked my FPS. I saw it dip to 110, just like this area. Yeah, 107. Just running around this area dips it. And if I run an FPS cap, this is what I wanted to demonstrate. Cap it at 105. And it's only going to dip by about 5 to 10 FPS max, rather than dipping from 127 to 100, which is going to, if you happen to be aiming around this area and you're running uncapped, can you see how that can affect your input latency? If it's going 100 and, I'm at 107, and then as soon as I aim around here, I'm at 117. it just feels a little bit more jittery when your hand can't get used to the your hand-eye coordination can't get used to the input latency. So yeah, 102, 118, 121. It is just all over the place with this current 1.81 patch. And if I cap it, now we'll just take a look at how that looks. Even if the 1% goes down a tiny bit, the gap between the 1% and the actual reading is going to be less dramatic. So now I'm only going to dip from 105 to 94. That's not as big a deal as 118 to you know. But if you're running a lower res, you'd have way more headroom. You still get CPU bound though, so you know, it's the same problem. Even at 1440p or 1080p, you're going to be CPU bound running high object quality. No idea what this guy was running after. But yeah, you can see that now, like running at running cap, just look at the stability. So basically get the average reading or the current reading, which is 105, and deduct the 1% low, and however much that difference is, how consistent that is your input latency consistency. So I'm not talking about lowest possible input latency, but more about consistent input latency, which is also important, especially in games that have some optimization and rendering distance issues. And now if I uncap it, we'll take a look. So now our gap looks a lot bigger. And it still drops because of the high object quality. Like, it's not perfect. I don't even know where we're going. It's like looking at the FPS more than I'm paying attention to the actual game progression. Yeah, so 117, and as we enter towards the compound, let's just take these guys out first. $133, 107, 102. Yeah, like, see what I mean? This is the 50. You know, 5200X is a strong CPU, but we are CPU bound here, or optimization bound, quite a fair bit compared to. And now I've got to drop it mid. Like, this is a good example area. I'll drop it to medium. Now look at the FPS. How easily it holds around 120 plus. Now our 1% lows aren't great anymore, like aren't necessarily going to be boosted because there's still a lot of objects to deal with. But medium is making a difference. And you can feel it. Like, I can't explain it because it's different for everybody, but I can feel it when I go to aim and I'm getting more consistent frame rate. I can feel like my mouth feels more stable. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, you can see 137, 120 uncapped with medium object quality, how much of a difference that makes. And if you're running, like, even if you're running 1440p or 1080p, your FPS stability and the 1% lows is going to be similar when you're CPU bound and optimization bound. Like, you're not magically going to get a consistent 160 FPS if there's so many zombies in the area, in the compound, on high object quality just because you've got lower game resolution and less GPU utilization. Oh, got him on the Swift. Did I already lose it? Yeah. Damn it. Oh. Turned his head. I hate that. The way some zombies move, like, I've played this for so many matches back to back, and I still get tripped up sometimes the way a zombie will just suddenly behave. I think maybe others are going to push in soon. My game sense is tingling. So yeah, just wanted to give you guys that Wait, is the other team coming here? They were trying to be all stealthy, and I just ruined it. Oh. Come back. You need a, Oh, it's gonna be too late. By the time I get... Alrighty, so now I'm going to cap it as well, just to show what medium object quality does to the frame rate and the 1% lows, how much more stable it might be. I'm not going to guarantee it because, you know, optimization. But you can just look at the metrics for yourselves and draw your own conclusions. And then, you know, it was holding 105. And then we're just going to stay in this spot and go back to high. This was meant to be a high test. And yeah. Right, maybe it'll go back to 105. Like, it's not too bad in this position. It's more just as you traverse the map in random areas, you get those dips. Oops. What was that? I have a feeling there could be like someone under us, or they came from this side, but I'll just randomly get shot as I run around. Nothing. And we'll go back to Uncapped. Uncapped FPS. And they were extracting. I was hoping for a team fight, but maybe I'll have to do another video and just splice it onto the end of this one. Alrighty, so this will clip, like from any second now, you'll just see it clip into a fresh match team fight.
Made up. Oh.